Hi ladies, Sian Burton here, your private practice growth and marketing expert. It is the end of the year, and I know that many of you, maybe not right now, because you're probably in the thick of getting ready for Christmas or winding down business, but at some point over the next couple of weeks, as we come towards the end of the year, are going to look back on this year and start to reflect on what you achieved and probably what you didn't achieve. And this is what today's training is about because the biggest mistake I see people make at this time of year is to look at where they are right now and compare it to where they wanted to be. So back in January, if you thought to yourself, well, I'd like to do this year, or I'd like the practice to look like this by the end of the year, what people will do is then say, oh, well, I wanted to be here and I'm actually here, and that's really disappointing. So maybe the goal was to hit $500,000 in revenue in this 12-month period, and you've hit $400,000 from maybe $300,000 or even $200,000 last year. People will say, well, I wanted to hit 500,000 and I've only to hit 400,000. I'm really disappointed. I missed my goal. I didn't achieve what I set out to. And then it can spiral very quickly. Like maybe I just shouldn't set goals. Maybe I'm not any good at this. Maybe I can't achieve the things that I want to achieve. Maybe I should just give up and not have my practice anymore. I'm laughing, but it can quickly go to that place of this is pointless. I'm not achieving anything. I'm not doing what I set out to. What's the point of all of this? And I really want to talk about that today because what I see happen is that people do that to themselves between Christmas and New Year, like over this period, and then they roll into January really disillusioned, and they're not really wanting to set goals because they feel like they missed them this year. They're not really excited or inspired to get back into the business because they're coming in with this energy of like, oh, what's the point? Like, maybe I should just give up. And that has a huge impact on the first few months of the year. And then that's almost self-fulfilling, right? That it has a huge impact. Maybe you don't do as well in the first quarter as you wanted to, and then it's like, oh well, it is all screwed. I should just give up. I know this can seem quite negative, but I see so many people do this and feel so disheartened that they miss their goals. And I used to do this to myself all the time. But what the problem with it is that what you're doing is you're measuring the gap between where you ended up and where you wanted to get to. So you're measuring forwards from where you are now to where you wanted to get to. You're measuring that gap as the measure of your success or lack of success, it would appear, right? There's $100,000 gap between where I wanted to be and where I've ended up. Therefore, it has not been a successful year. I didn't hit my goals, all the things we just spoke about. What I want to have you do, because it makes a world of difference, is to measure backwards. So instead of measuring from where you are now to where you wanted to be, measure instead from where you were at the start of the year to where you are now. So maybe you started the year at 200,000 and you wanted to land at 500,000 and you landed at 400,000. You can choose to look at that as being $100,000 short, or you can choose to look at that as doubling the size of your practice in 12 months. I know what I would rather do, right? I would rather look at the fact I doubled the size of my business in 12 months, even if I didn't quite do as much as I wanted to. And trust me, when you've had a goal for 7 years, like I have, of hitting $1 million in your business, and you don't hit it, yet you stay in business, there is no other way to continue to keep like pushing towards that goal. Because if every year I beat myself up on what I didn't achieve instead of what I did, I wouldn't be here anymore. I would have given up. I would have listened to those voices in my head that tell me it's pointless, you're never going to get there, you don't know what you're doing, yada, yada, yada. I wouldn't be here because it's exhausting. Instead, I choose to look at what we've achieved instead of what I was hoping to achieve because there's always stuff to celebrate. Even if you look at your revenue and you think, well, I wanted to double our revenue, we've actually only grown by $50,000. There will be other things that you have achieved this year. Maybe it's that you have turned all your contractors into employees. That takes a huge amount of energy. Maybe you've gone from working 6 days a week to working 3 days a week and you've maintained your revenue, grown a little bit, not as much as you'd hoped. But the time is massive. And actually, if you added on what you could be making if you were still doing 6 days a week, you'd have had huge growth. So there's always something to celebrate. You've always made progress in something. At least I hope you have. If you're looking back at this year and you're like, we literally have made no progress anywhere, then please book in a feminine way to scale consultation. Book in a feminine way to scale consultation, because I would hate for that to happen another year again. Like, that should not be happening for any of you. But it may not always be the immediate things that you see the success in. For some of my clients, their business is the same, but they're spending quality time with their families that they didn't have before because of changes they put in their business. Like, that's priceless, and it's something to be celebrated. Maybe it isn't ticking all those normal status goals of doubling your income or doubling your revenue every year on year or whatever it might be, but it is success nonetheless, right? So, I sat down with my team yesterday. We had our team meeting. We looked at what we'd achieved. We have tripled our monthly recurring revenue. So that's revenue that comes in every month from January to now. That's huge. We have grown revenue by 25%. Like, that is a big increase in revenue. It's not anywhere near what I would have liked it to have been, but we've done it with a lot less stress, a lot less firefighting, way more systems and processes in place. And we have a foundation to double the business this next year in 2024. And I know that we're going to do that, because it has gone from being a hope and a wish to something that is forecastable, and like, it would really take something for it not to happen now with what we have in place and what we're doing and how everything's working. Um, and so I'm celebrating that. Like, maybe I didn't hit my goal, but this is the closest I've ever been to hitting that goal. Every other year it's been, I'm like, well, I'd really like to hit that goal this year. This year I'm celebrating the fact that everything is in place and we are progressively moving towards it, instead of me just crossing my fingers and hoping that it will happen. That's been the work that we've done this year around systems and processes and getting the right team in place, and building a solid foundation and making sure that I have a business that can double in size without it like burning me in the process. Because I spoke to a client this morning who has seen rapid growth over the last 2 to 3 years, as in quadrupling the size of her business to way over $1 million from $300,000 3 years ago, not quite. And she took some time away from Success Without Sacrifice and has come back because it's so painful right now, because the growth is happening and the business is not functioning well in that growth. And that's become very uncomfortable for her. So that's to be celebrated. Like, if you're growing and you're growing with ease and without sacrifice on your part, it doesn't matter what pace you're growing at, that's still something to be celebrated, because business is a marathon, not a sprint, right? It's not about the hitting the goal in 1 year. It's about building something that's sustainable and will continue to give back to you and your lifestyle and your family for years to come. So as you sit down and reflect over the Christmas period on what you've achieved this year, please look at where you started January 2023 at. What did your practice look like then? And compare now to then. Not now to where you hoped you'd be, but now to where you were at the start of the year. Because I can almost guarantee that if you look backwards, what you're going to see is that you've done some incredible things this year. Things that you probably didn't give yourself credit for as you did them. Things that you probably skimmed over as soon as they had happened, because maybe they weren't quite as big as you hoped they would be even then. But as you look back on the year, those goals will be huge. Like, the things you've achieved will be massive. I know they will. And that's what I want you to celebrate going into the Christmas period and January 2024. I want you to look at what you've achieved this year and think about what's possible for next year. And maybe that's more of the same. Maybe that's a lot more. And if you're thinking that, okay, well, I'm going to celebrate what I've achieved, but it isn't what I wanted it to be, then I would really encourage you to book in a Feminine Way to Scale consultation with my team, and let us help you look at why maybe you've not been able to achieve what you wanted to this year, and what we can do to support you next year to make that happen. Because I want you to be one of those people at the end of 2024 who's looking back, like many of my clients are, and saying, wow, I doubled the size of my business this year and I'm working half as much as I was this time last year. Life is pretty freaking good. I've been completing some videos with some of my clients in the last few weeks, and 4 or 5 of them have like hit $1 million and they're working less than they've ever worked before. One client's gone from working 6 days a week to 3 days a week and has doubled her revenue and what she pays herself. I want that for you next year. So look at what you've achieved, celebrate what you've achieved. Have a glass of wine, have a nice cup of tea, eat some chocolate, celebrate what you have achieved from where you were in January to where you are now. And then think about what you want it to look like next year. And if what you've achieved this year is not at the level that you want to achieve next year, if you want to achieve more and you feel like you have exhausted everything you know in order to do that this year, then reach out to us. Love to have a chat with you in the new year about what that might look like. We also have our 18th Private Practice Growth Accelerator in January. I would love to have you come along too. It's a very powerful week where we have helped people in that week learn the skills they need to know to market their team and fill them up to capacity just with what they learned in that week. So super powerful. If you want to know more about that, just comment below and we can share the details for you to register. But let me know what you're celebrating. What are the things that when you measure backwards, you can see you've achieved this year? What awesomeness have you brought to your business? And what are you going to celebrate? What are you celebrating about 2023? Because if we're not celebrating ourselves, I'll tell you this, no one else is going to celebrate us. I have clients who say, my team don't celebrate me at Christmas or bump. No one else is thinking about it. So if you don't celebrate your own success, no one else is going to know or celebrate it with you, firstly. But if we don't celebrate our success, then what is the point, right? There's no point working your butt off all year to then berate yourself at the end of the year because you didn't quite do enough. Because if there's, I know one thing to be true, it's that you gave your business everything you had available to you this year and more probably. And you probably couldn't have done any more than you did. So there's no point beating yourself up about it. Celebrate what you did, celebrate what you achieved. And if you would like help, please reach out and let us know. Let me know in the comments what you're celebrating because I really want to celebrate with you. And make sure you post those on our Friday wins because it's the last Friday of the year, working year, and that is definitely the place to be sharing some of these. So let me know in the comments and I will look forward to reading those later.